All right, guys. So first things first, I want to go over the political spectrum with you quick, and then I want to go over the map, and then I want to talk about Hitler's expansion. So today we're going to focus on Kristallnacht, okay, the night of broken glass, and then we'll move on and mention more about his expansion through Europe. So it's going to be called Lebensraum, just means we want to expand the living space for the German people. So we'll mention about these steps here that leads to World War II. So as you can imagine, he's claiming more land. We're soon going to see the war start, and that's why we're going to have a test on Jason. Friday. There we go. All right, let's review this political spectrum quick. I'm going to have it up here on the board, and then like you guys to write this down, good review. Definitely might leave some questions here on the test about it. And then I'll review the map. I'll probably just put up a map game for you. So there you have it. Just make sure you know the bodies of water. I know the assignment I gave you is pretty ugly looking, so I apologize. But you guys can write the names of the countries in the spots, like on Canada, if you wanted to zoom in. Write it in and then color them Allied or Axis ballot. That's going to be a working document too. So as we're mentioned about his expansion, right? As Germany is expanding through Europe, that map's going to look a little bit different. So when he's taking over nations and countries, well, the lands of Europe is going to look a little bit more red. So I'm hoping that will be like a working document for you as we're moving through the lesson. Well, the lessons, and then you guys can see exactly how far, right, Germany expands during that part. All right, let's start with this, political spectrum. So we talked about this on Friday, okay? And I will attach the picture of this to the video lesson for you guys, and you can look it over, and it'll help you study for the test for God. All right, in the middle. So, right in the middle of political spectrum, what do we have? Austin. Democracy. All right, democracy, good job. Okay, so. But if you're considered right in the middle, smack dab right in the middle, what do you call it? What do you call it? Sometimes you might lean a little bit left and right, but if you're right in the middle, what do they call it? I know I talked a little bit. Eli. No. Naomi. Center. Yeah, you're center, okay, but I'm looking for a moderate, all right? So right in the middle, just make sure you put moderate. So you can kind of lean both ways. So sometimes, depending on whatever's happening within the country, you can say, you know what, I want a little bit more pro-capitalism. Okay, so you might be a moderate, leaning a little bit more towards the Republican side. Or I don't know, if you want a little bit more government influence, you can be more of a Democratic moderate. Okay. So moderate, just make sure you guys know you can put an M there that makes it a little bit more sense for you. All right, so let's just look here on the right-hand side. So as we're looking at the right side of the political spectrum, right? I put these little bars here to help you understand a little bit. Eli, what do we got here more on the right-hand side? Conservative. Good job. Good job. So if you're more on the right-hand side here, it just means you're conservative. Meaning you don't like the government spending. Okay, so I think on Friday I talked a little bit about minus government. Okay, so we write that down. And then plus capitalism. So this is on the right hand side. So conservative just meaning that you don't like government getting involved in the market and the economy, and you want private industry to take over, right? You want the private free market to have a little bit more access to trade and allow for more innovation. Okay, well, that's regulation, just meaning if the government's out of it, there's no regulation of the economy. Okay, so this is where we're going to see a lot of, let's say, economic growth, right? Pro-capitalism. Okay, if you have the experience, if you work really hard, let's say, if you innovate or create a new invention, right? Typically, you'll see business owners and pro-capitalists here on this side of the spectrum. All right, so within this side of U.S. politics, okay, on the right-hand side, would you be Democratic or Republican? What would you be here on the right-hand side? Ben? Republican? Yeah, Republican. So I'll just put an R here for Republican, okay? at the very far right, what do we have? So this is an extreme version of politics. Okay, this stemmed right around the end of World War One. And again, this is pro-nationalism, so I can put that in there. So nationalism, patriotism. What do we got, Planet? Fascism, good job. Fascism. All right, we mentioned about a few dictators then. So what dictators fall into fascist regime? So we mentioned 3 of them. And then you can label the countries too, so it makes a little bit more sense. Go ahead, Blake. All right, good. So we got Tojo in Japan, right? And what was he? Was he the emperor or what was? What was it? Naomi, what was?
He was
Yeah, good job. He was a very successful general for Japan, where he gained a lot of popularity and fame with the people. All right, who else is over here? Fascist. Go ahead, Austin. Hitler. Yeah, good job. Right. You got Hitler. Germany. Good. And then who else? Finally. Yeah, good job. Mussolini. Don't worry about it. Well, the main thing to know is that you got Japan, Germany, and Italy on the side of fascists, far right. Okay, the difference of it, like I said, is that, yeah, there are a lot of these pro-business, they are, right? There is capitalism in a fascist economy, but they got to really show their appreciation or loyalty to the nation, the state. So that's what I was mentioning, which we'll get to the left-hand side. A lot of political scientists try to show the political spectrum more as a what? What did I say? It looked like more like a what and a straight line. Plan? Yeah, like a horseshoe. Because there's a lot of tendencies with fascism and we'll get to it, communism, right, that are very similar, but well, a little bit different. Right, the main thing here to know too, I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, Nazism would be here on the far right too. So Nazism is fascism, but has that racial ideology linked to it. Okay. I know it says Nationalist Socialist Party, right? That's what it means. But in all reality, Hitler just made the National Socialist Party, Nazi Party, as a way to just appeal to socialists, right? To get a little bit more votes. In all reality, it didn't have too much socialism in it. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So in other words, he's trying to trick you. All right. Now we're gonna move here to the left-hand side. So what do we got here on the left-hand side? If you're, let's say, U.S. politics, so a little bit closer to moderation. Right, what are the other major political parties? So we got the Republican Party. What else we got here? But yeah, the Democratic Party. Good. I'm going to put a D here. You guys get that. So here are the Democratic Party, and what do they like? What do they like here? Go ahead, Naomi.
the government.
Yeah, good job. So you can just put a plus government here, and then you can put, let's say, plus social programs. Okay. In other words, they like government to be a little bit more involved in the economy. They think that the Democratic side, right, if you believe in this version of politics, you believe that there should be more regulation in the economy. You think that private industries are allowed, sure, but they should be a little bit more equal so that you don't, let's say, see a monopoly form. One business reigns supreme amongst the others, right? You also want to make sure that there's safety nets for people, right? So when you think about social security, right? When you think about disability, when you think about, let's say, government funded medicine or healthcare, right? The government should step up and provide for the people. So government is increased, right? They like government influence. Okay. So if you wanted to, you can put like, let's say, a negative capitalism to it, right? You want to try to cap it a bit. You don't want to make sure it gets too large or too strong, the private industries of the free market. So more government influence on this side. All right, right here at this bar, right? Midway between extreme and moderation. What do we have? We have Ben? Socialism? Yes, good job, socialism. So with socialism, again, there's a lot of government influence, social programs being included within the market. right, within private industry. You're providing for workers' compensation, so better pay for workers, which, yeah, it's a good thing, right? Healthcare benefits, vacation time, you name it. All right, so that time when we're talking about the jungle, you guys remember talking about the jungle? Ooh, that disgusting article I had you read. Well, this is where government would step in and say, hey, you guys need to follow code guidelines in order to make sure that the consumer is protected. Right? This is disgusting the way this meat was created, packaged, right? The way this was processed. And for the workers, they should get better pay. So yeah, social programs are very important, right? And that's maybe if you lean more left, the Democratic side here. You would want a little bit more government involvement. All right, and then finally here, the very, very extreme far left. What is this? What is this here? Someone else. Oh, Brody, thank you. What did you say? Yes, good, good. So communism. And what does that mean? What is communism? What is communism?
Basically, the government controls.
Yeah, good. So government controls all private property, right? Farmland, nope, it's the states now, it's the governments. Okay, private industry, there is none, right? Everything's produced, created by the government, right? So you can see how that's a threat to capitalism, big time, right? There is no private industries in a communist economy, a communist political structure. I know I mentioned a little bit about who falls over here, left hand side, what dictator, what country then obviously belongs there. Go ahead, Austin.
Russia.
Yeah, good job. So I'm gonna put, well, who's the dictator? Remember, the man of steel?
Stalin.
Yeah, good job, Stalin. I'm gonna put Stalin and then USSR. Good. So the Soviet Union, right? Russia, there you go. Anyway, with communism, I mentioned about collectivization. So as he was coming in charge, his rise to power, right? The state came in and collected all the private land, right? He forced industrialization through government regulation. With what were those plans called to try to force the industrialization within Russia? Plan? 5-year plans, good. All right, I think this is pretty good. So if you guys want to write that down, take a picture of it, go ahead. Okay, I think that's a good way to look at it, and you'll see some questions pertaining to the political spectrum then on the test for Friday. All right, you guys good with that? Anybody need a picture? Write that in down. Feel okay? Now, I want to go to the map. You guys see the game that I put up? Well, the link to it. Anybody do it yet? 100%? Yeah, Naomi? Got 100%? No, okay. All right. Hey, fastest time, 100%. Fastest time, 100%. 3 extra credit points. How about that? 3? Yeah. So you might need it. We'll see. All right, we'll play. Yes. Oh, I want to see it picked up here.
Switzerland, Latvia,
Good here too, I guess.
Finland,
Go for it.
Finland,
Dancing.
Lithuania, Greece, Hungary, Netherlands, Poland, Netherlands, Portugal, Sweden, Turkey, Sweden, Belgium, Estonia.
All right, does anybody want to play? Real quick, anybody that can get 100%? Jason? Huh?
Absolutely not.
Come on, just one try here. Someone, anybody, please.
I got it.
Ariel, I saw her name. I saw her name here. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go. You got it. There you go. Use that side, just because when you get to Danzig and, well, Luxembourg, it's a little crazy. Hopefully the ads don't come up. It spells it weird, sorry. Here you go.
Hungary,
Oh, no! Oh!
No, don't bring it.
You got it, you got it, you got it, you got it.
No,
No, right there.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right above. Oh,
Between, right there.
no. Wow, Ariel, under pressure. Alright, now we're on a roll. Now, Ariel. Hey.
What is the?
It's small.
It's really
Small.
Top right.
I'll help you with it.
Up.
It's up here. Oh. There you go. Oh, now you're trying. Up top, up top, up top, up top. Oh,
Sound like.
yeah.
Oh. No.
Down the Balkans.
Okay.
Oh, I'm blah.
This
Yeah, big one. Yeah, all right.
Oh my gosh.
Up. There it is.
Wait, what color? Oh, I know.
One of the green ones.
It's one of the.
Thanks, Eli. You're not wrong.
Oh, that's the same.
There you go. There we go. All right. Back and I'll back. Anybody else want to try it before we move on here? Then we gotta move on. Good job, you're all pretty good. You're pretty good. Now, anybody else? Eli, get up there. Let's get it all, man. I'll pay attention. I ain't helping you.
You like?
Yes. That one, that one.
Yeah.
Both brand.
Oh my God, I got it.
Right, come on,
Come
Eli.
on, Eli, let's go.
Yo.
No.
Jenna, we're gonna be here all day.
What?
Your way is up.
How do you guys do this? Nice, there you go.
We should have moved both of them out, but we didn't.
Any hits?
Not really.
I'm thinking.
I mean, wait. Friday, I think one person has.
You are.
I think one person.
No. No.
Yes.
I'll talk about that now. Yeah.
That was small.
Small one.
Down. Oh!
It's a.
Oh, you, come on.
I never saw that before.
It's a small one.
It's
It's a tiny
This
one.
small
Right, tiny one. Right.
Small.
Nice.
If you don't.
Steven.
Where's that? You lied.
Ah.
Right
there.
there.
There it is. One of these. Down. There it is.
$30.
What are you doing?
Side breaking Eli.
Yeah.
I do that. There you go.
It is cheaper. Well, together, L1. Really yellow one.
Yeah.
There's two Ireland. Two Ireland. No, it's a bigger one. It's below the white one. Okay, why do you have to?
Up. It's up.
It's small white.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. You want to go again? Here, can we wait till we're, yeah, can we wait till we're done here? Yeah, we'll come back to one. I want to go, I want to get on here. Then you guys can come back. You have the pencil yet?
No,
Feel it?
I put it right up there,
Where?
like right up there.
What do you mean right up there? See it?
It's like right there.
He took it like something right
It's like
there.
right there. It's right there.
Where? Under there.
Better get that back.
Oh, wow.
It's under there.
I don't see it at all. What are you talking about?
Get
Get it, Jenna. Get it, Jana. All right, guys. Hey, real quick. So political spectrum. So make sure you guys look over this. I think it's a good figure. But I will attach the one we just went over then today to the video lesson for today. So the biggest thing here to remember is that in the center, moderate, right? If you're a moderate, that means you're right in the middle. Okay. Real quick, last thing I want to mention. Okay, I didn't talk about a libertarian yet. All right, you guys know what a libertarian is. All right, so people that are libertarian, they don't affiliate with the spectrum at all. I know it sounds crazy, but it's hard to really pinpoint them down where they're at on the spectrum. Typically, a libertarian does not like government at all, right? They think government needs to leave people alone. So in other words, regulation, forget it, right? When it comes to capitalism, they're pro-capitalist, pro-free market, right? They want to just be left alone. Does that make sense? Right? I think a lot of people can agree to that. It's like, you know what, government beat it, huh? Anyway, the libertarian, typically you'll see them more on the right-hand side, okay? And they're viewed as like an independent. But there are some social libertarians, meaning they like the idea that people get benefit, help, and let's say if they really, really need it, right? If they're in despair, or let's say disabled, the government should step up and help these people out. So there are some, I know it sounds hard to imagine, I guess, but there are some cases here where you might have a social libertarian, where they're on the left-hand side of the spectrum. Does that make sense? Okay, I just want to make sure I covered that before we move on, because that is important. You'll hear that a lot within politics, right? You'll have a libertarian party, okay? All right, and then other third parties, like a green party, you typically see that too. That's more on the left-hand side usually when it comes to the government trying to protect the environment, right? I think that's primary goal, right? That primary focus. All right, moving on. So here are your terms for today. All right, so since we just talked about all the dictators here, now we're going to mention about, well, Hitler again. We're going to get back to him. So we got the Nuremberg laws, Kristallnacht, and the Gestapo. All right, so with Kristallnacht, all right, we're going to talk about and focus on this today. And I do have an assignment for you. So for those that really need some help here right now, maybe they didn't do the Rise of Dictators assignment, not last Friday, but Friday before. Well, this, and along with your math assignment is due tomorrow, right? I'm gonna have Kristallnacht, the assignment here. It's just a reading and a few questions. I'm gonna have that due on Wednesday. You guys got that? So tomorrow's the math. Wednesday is gonna be the reading and questions on Kristallnacht. All right, so you guys, a couple minutes here, then we'll move on. On Canvas, is it showing emojis now? In the module? How cool is that?
You do that?
I did.
Why?
It looks cool.
Oh.
Like a camcorder by the video lesson. Right? Rise of Dictators, it has like a guy saluting for emoji. I just figured out how to do that. Go back to the. You forget the network. Yeah, forget the network. And then you'll have to. Nice, way to go. Oh, yeah, it's still. All right, hey, Nuremberg laws, what do we got? What do we got, Nuremberg laws? What do we have? What do we have? Someone please help me. That,
Anti-Semitic and racist laws by, on September 15, 1935.
yes, good job. So 1935, this is just 2 years, well, maybe, obviously just 1 year after Hitler becomes dictator, after he becomes a Führer. The whole point of these laws was to try to chase out, right, these outsiders, as Hitler would call them, right? And this was a design to make sure that Germany would become pure again with just Aryan German culture, ethnicity, right? That's it, right? Everybody else needs to go out. Specifically, these Nuremberg laws targeted Jews, right? And stripped them of citizenship. It made them put the Star of David on their jackets, clothing, and businesses, homes they had to place that within a window, right? And this was a way for Hitler, the Nazis, to target who the enemy is of Germany, right? So everybody knew when you're walking down the street, there they are, right? They're depicting their show with the Star of David. What else did it do? Well, it made it forbidden for any German citizen to actually have any relationship, marriage with a Jewish person. So marriage was not allowed. Right, the reason for it is because he wanted to try to make a pure, right, Aryan race within Germany. So these Nuremberg laws were brutal, they're awful, right? And this was targeting specific people, specifically Jews within Germany. Right, these laws obviously were right before the 1936 Olympic Games. And this is where a lot of countries were debating whether or not competing in the event. All right, the United States especially, because we have a lot of, the Jewish population in the United States. And really everywhere else. So, yeah, these were racial anti-Semitic laws. All right, Kristallnacht. Make sure you guys write this down. It's the night of broken glass, right? Or known as Kristallnacht. Right, there's two ways of looking at it, and there's a reason for it, because the Nazis and Germans wanted to try to make it seem like it wasn't so bad, right? It wasn't that bad now. And then you got the Night of Broken Glass, which sounds like there was a horror show, which it was. All right, and this was an event that happened in 1938, November of 1938, where many Jewish people were targeted, their buildings destroyed, their homes burned to the ground, their businesses looted. Synagogues, which is a place of worship, like your church, okay, destroyed. Cemeteries, graveyards, right? Gravestones destroyed. And this was a targeted attack in 1938. The Nazis, just regular German citizens too. The Hitler Youth, the SS, the Gestapo, right? They tried to target many Jewish people living within Germany. In other words, this is really kicking it off, this horror event for the Jewish people of Germany. And there's many people killed, right, humiliated, embarrassed, beaten up on the streets. They had many situations here where they're book burning in the middle of the road where many of the Hitler Youth, German citizens would join in. And this was a means of fear tactics, right? If you didn't join in, well, you could probably be lumped in with them. Right, you gotta imagine, these were once friends, neighbors, right? These German citizens to the Jewish people within their communities, they were once friends and neighbors and all community members, and now they're turning on them. So you can imagine just how scary this would be, right? How awful of an experience this would be, where one day you're having obviously a good time with your neighbors and friends, community members, and the next they're trying to kill you and burn down your home and destroy and loot your business. Or maybe destroy your synagogue, your place of worship. Right? And the whole idea was to try to take out the Jewish people from these communities all throughout Germany. It wasn't just in one specific area. But they called the Night of Broken Glass because as the Jewish people were targeted, their homes, their businesses, synagogues, you name it, right? The glass shattered, smashed all across the streets throughout many major cities in Germany, many major towns. And everywhere you look, you just saw the scattered glass. So they call it the Night of Broken Glass. There were many people killed and even deported at this time to work camps, right? To concentration camps, which we're going to talk more about towards the end of the chapter. But I just wanted to make sure I mention it here now as we see Hitler's rise to power. And as he's really elevating here in a world stage of Germany, well, now he can really roll out his plan to try to really start this ethnic cleansing here in Germany. All right, the Gestapo is a secret police, a paramilitary group, right, that's targeting certain minority groups, okay, Jews especially, right, but communists, right, political rivals. They also targeted many of the mentally disabled, okay, physically disabled, gypsies, Slavs, and even homosexuals all throughout Germany. So the Gestapo, whenever you see shows or movies, when they're literally walking into people's home, inspecting them, trying to search for different hiding places, typically that's what you'll see with the Gestapo. They're wearing suits, ties, right? It almost look like the Men in Black and white as they're searching people's homes, making sure that no one is getting hidden in the rafters, in the closets, right, or underneath, let's say, the floorboards of people's homes. All right, so real quick, I'm going to put up one slide here, Kristallnacht, and then I'll put out the assignment here towards the end of class. All right, so we just talked about the rise of dictators, but real quick, Kristallnacht, November 9th, 1938, the Night of Broken. Well, what started it? How did it make it, how did this happen? How did this occur? Well, obviously, in 1935, the Nuremberg laws were established. How Nazi Germany was making sure they could put these anti-Semitic laws out and try to forbid any type of Jewish person from having citizenship within Germany. And publicly targeting them and humiliating them in many towns, villages, cities, all throughout the country. Right? So they had to wear the Star of David. They weren't allowed to have any marriages with pure German citizens, okay? And their businesses were not, they weren't receiving any type of insurance coverage. So if there's anything that happens, well, there's no rebuilding it. There's no helping them out if anything were to occur. If their store was looted or their valuables taken, well, insurance companies will not fill in those damages. So you can imagine, ever since 1935, the Jews were targeted pretty heavily, right? They were singled out. They had to wear the Star of David. They had to place the Star of David in their homes, in their windows, in their businesses to show, well, for the German people, this was Hitler's design, see who the enemy was and see who was trying to take Germany and bring them down, right? For all the hardships Germany went through after World War I, well, clearly Hitler was trying to force blame onto a group of people, the Jews. So he saw them as outsiders. He saw them as a leech on the German society. And the Nuremberg laws was that first step, really, that we see. Okay, so again, it starts small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Right, by 1938, we do see Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. And the event that kicks this off was, well, there was a Nazi official in Paris and he was actually killed by a Polish Jew. So, because the anti-Semitic rhetoric, the policies of Nazi Germany, you can imagine, right? If they're walking outside the country, maybe they're visiting another country like France, they're gonna be open games to many people that don't like their ideology. So as this Nazi official was killed, well, this sprung into action for Hitler and the Nazi party. They said, you know what, this went too far, all right? This is just another example of how the German people are being targeted by these outside ethnic groups or other racial groups within Germany. And well, this is where they looted, destroyed homes, businesses, right? Synagogues, which is churches, right? They're Jewish churches, they're places of worship, right? They destroyed grave sites and cemeteries. Why? Why would they destroy tombstones? Well, you don't have a history to a place. You don't have a history linking you to a counter city. Well, you really belong there. No. So in other words, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, or as what the Nazis would call it, Crystal Night, right? Because let's face it, Crystal Night doesn't sound bad. This is a way for them to try to twist the story. So when everybody hears about it, oh, no, that didn't happen. These events didn't occur here or there. No. But in all reality, this was a horror show. This was damaging, this was terrible, and the deportations of the concentration camps are starting here, right? Obviously. They're already happening in the early 1930s, but right now, as the war is getting closer and closer, right, the Nazis are showing their true colors. So again, 200 synagogues, 7,500 Jewish businesses are destroyed, 200 Jews killed just on this night alone, and 600 injured, thousands arrested. And you can imagine kids, family members, well, not family members, but community members, friends of the Jewish people in Germany, all being targeted, humiliated, and hunted down, literally hunted down. So you can imagine if, again, you have a neighbor you love, you have over for, many times for parties, now all of a sudden they're looking to destroy your home and loot your business and destroy your place of worship. It's a literally night. All right, anyway, there's the night of broken glass. Is there any questions? All right, I'm gonna put out the assignment. Okay, it's gonna be due Wednesday. Again, the map is due tomorrow. Test we're gonna have on Friday.